technical people will die trying.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I have to tell my team, at some point you have to call time of death. Like, you can't keep
going. You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims. Joining me is Donna Grindle. What's up, Donna?
Well, you and I are trying to figure out how to plan way too many things, and my head is spinning because we do all the stuff before we actually record. Now I'm trying to get back in, so when you're looking at my eyes, they're like a slot machine.
Yeah, it's either that or the cat wall clock.
Yeah. Click, click, click. Yeah. Try to focus.
So we'll go ahead and break the news for everybody that what we were talking about before we hit record was the next boot camp.
Yes, live in person.
Yep. So just want to go ahead and throw that out there that is coming up. I think we've settled on dates, right?
Yeah, we just haven't officially signed a contract with the place, and we're looking at some different options, and whoever gives us the best deal. That's how we roll. So yes, it's going to be in May of 2025. Yeah, this episode comes out. It's our first one in 2025.
Yeah, but Happy New Year.
Yeah, everybody's now working on their taxes. So, all that frantic year-end stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to get an extension every year, so.
Our goal is to not do that most years. But when that's your goal is to not file an extension, that says a lot. Anyway, so we're looking at the week after Mother's Day. So the 11th, the 12th, I think Mother's Day is the 11th. So the week of May the 12th is what we intend to do. And as soon as we sign a contract, we will confirm. And you can find out how that ends up happening. See how we do with that by the time this comes out. The website should be telling you for sure at PriceTagBootcamp.com or thehippabootcamp.com.
That's right.
It's thehippabootcamp.com. And if you, but PriceTag Bootcamp, a little bit easier. It's one we got. So go check it out. Sign up. Come join us. It's always fun. It's 4 days of just riveting content on managing privacy and security in healthcare.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, we always have a lot of special things happen at the boot camp.
Oh yeah, we bring in folks and do fun things and make people go, "Wait a minute, what? I had no idea."
Yeah, I guarantee you'll leave there going, "Oh, wow, I did not know that I needed to know a lot of this stuff I don't know."
I had no idea how much I didn't know.
Yeah. So, which is why we have people come back 2 and 3 times because it's a lot. It is a lot. So it's funny because people are always like, "How do you talk about this stuff for 4 days?" It's like, do you know how much we have to cut just to get it to 4 days?
Yeah, and I mean, we're pounding away constantly. There's not a lot of breaks. I mean, you're lucky. We just go. And so, yeah. And hopefully I'll still be able to pull off my Bourbon and Breeches happy hour. That's our little one night of do something fun while we still learn, where I pair a wonderful bourbon with a data breach story. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Or just do beer and breeches.
I know, right? Okay, I can do beer. We could do tequila and tips and tequila. No, I don't know what we could do. We'll have to come up with some fun things. Wine and wine, maybe we'll.
We'll do the what I should have said episode.
Yeah. What I should have said was nothing.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
But it'll be fun. So be sure to check those sites out. If you can always email us as well. I would just say go on the website. You can even go to the helpmewithhippa.com podcast site. There'll be information there pointing you back to it. So tons of ways to find us and get information, but you definitely want to attend. And it is very limited. We usually can only fit about 25, 30 folks in the rooms that we get. And so it's a very limited seating. So you want to get in there early.
Well, and we don't want to have too many people.
No, because we do a lot of stuff that we need small groups. Because a lot of, how you say it, workshopping happening.
Yes, we'll call it that. Yes. And we want to be able to make sure that everybo's engaged. And that's hard to do in a large group. So, oh, and I have a shout out to Chris Ross, who I'm like on a meeting. I was on a website, on a webinar, and all of a sudden a message pops up. And he's like, "Hey, Donna, fan of the podcast." Long time listener. So that was kind of cool. A little surprise right there in the middle of the meeting, So thanks for reaching out and appreciate it that you're thinking of us. So there you have it. And of course, share us, as David always has to say.
That's right. Pimp me out. All right. So today we're going to be talking about supply chain attacks because they're not going away anytime soon. The risk keeps growing. It's just, oh my gosh, and supply chain is one of those things that it's everywhere that you have to deal with it. Now, I'm not talking about just in business in general, but not just HIPAA, but PCI compliance, anything that you do now. If you get any kind of insurance, they're like, what are you doing about supply chain risk?
Mm-hmm.
What is your incident response plan about all this stuff? It's listed everywhere now, so you can't run away from it.
Well, and the new PCI compliance is, it's people don't get it. This is another area where this is going to catch up with folks, because we're lucky. We've got Jen Stone, who's been on the podcast and, helped fill in for me to talk about PCI and stuff like that and whatever y'all talked about. But, and Jen can go off like you and I can. But the fact that you actually you could say, for example, we use Stripe for payments. And you could say, well, I use Stripe, I use their little frame and we're good. And that was enough. And now they're like, no, whoever's hosting the website that actually hosts the frame from Stripe, you need to know that they are PCI compliant. And you and I both know that message ain't out there yet.
No. And the one we run into a lot is I use QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks sends the invoice and they take the payment. So, okay, well then great. You're dealing with Intuit and whatever their thing is. And so you've got to look at their terms and conditions and what is their security protocol.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So the people that aren't very technical, it is almost impossible for them to go through that thing by themselves because of the questions that
I feel like it's almost impossible for me to go through it. I don't know about you.
I mean, there are things I look at and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure what they're asking here.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I think people are just, checking boxes and that's going to come back to bite somebody. And it's just a matter of when,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, yes. I tried to help somebody with one the other day and we just went through some of the questions and I'm like, yeah, you answered this one wrong. And they were like, well, I didn't know what it meant. And I'm like, why did you answer it?
Yeah. So, that's what I sent I was like, look, send it to Jen. It's like, here's what I've answered, but these three, I don't understand, and she's like, okay, and I was like, no way.
Yeah. How did you get that from that?
Yeah. There you go. So I am not taking on PCI. People are like, well, do you do PCI and OSHA and all? No.
Yeah.
No, this is why. So supply chain, though, matters to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And from a cybersecurity point, a privacy point, and availability, integrity and availability, because a lot of times everybody just worries about the security of it. But what if they're not supplying it? That's one of the things that we're doing is trying to look at each element of the supply chain in the healthcare sector and the health sector coordinating clients, HSCC work we do, is to look at every little piece, blood supply, pharmacy supplies, how do we get the, medications out? Where are our vulnerabilities in medical devices? Where are our vulnerabilities in all of these things? Supply chain is the thing. So, we need to worry about it everywhere. And here are 3 examples of just how this risk keeps growing, how bad it is.
Yep.
So,
yeah, this first one here, I felt bad for them.
Yeah, I did.
They were nailing it. They were doing it right until they weren't.
which is way better than not even trying to do it right.
Yeah, it was. I mean, as I'm going through this, I'm like, dude, they're doing great. And what's the problem? Then yeah.
Then
you fumbled at the 3-yard line. Sorry.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. So this is a health delivery organization that has 2 hospitals and a residential care center in New York, in Ulster and Delaware counties of New York. And they were fined $550,000. Well, actually, they were fined $1.4 million. But then, and this is the state of New York, and then they suspended $850,000 of it because of the organization's, quote, financial condition and the role they play in providing care in the community.
If you hit me with $1.4 million, I bet you my financial condition is not going to be good either.
Your physical condition is not going to be good neither.
I know. Good grief, man. Financial condition. Well, I'm sure they appreciated it because I would have appreciated the $850,000 discount.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, the letter of the law, and this is state stuff, and the states can be anything they want to be with their, privacy and security laws, and OCR is what everybody worries about and how mean they are, and this, was just it comparatively not a thing. But here's why we felt bad for them. So we talked about 0-day vulnerability before.
Yeah.
But just a real quick thing, that means there's a security flaw in software that is a vulnerability that can be attacked, and 0-day means we're actually being attacked right now using this. It's like there's nothing. If you're up to date on all the fixes, it's not going to matter. We got to get another one in there. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 0 days since we knew this was a problem.
Yeah. And we've got a fix. But
in other words, today, right now, immediately.
Post haste. So Citrix NetScaler is Citrix has a ton of different features, communication tools and security tools. This is just one of them. So Health Alliance is the name of the company, and they were using this to deliver their telemedicine connections. Mm-hmm. So the big headline, the $500 you're getting fined because this went unpatched. In the announcement that Citrix put out, they said it was critical and it was currently being exploited to access the critical infrastructure and exfiltrate their Active Directory accounts, which means now I can do all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately.
Yeah. This is where the first thing I'm thinking is like, okay, they didn't patch it. But that's not actually it kind of is, kind of isn't. Because, the first thing we find out is they immediately caught the announcement and they went to patch it. And I'm like, wow, because I thought we were going to have a story about not patching hardware, which we talk about all the time. How hard it is for people to do these things. They don't keep up with it. But apparently these folks were on top of it. And I was like, okay. But then it gets squirrely.
Well, yeah, it's a lesson in you have to be on top of it in multiple ways. It was they were on top of it from a technical standpoint, but not a management standpoint.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Because for some reason, and I thought this story was going to take a dark turn, but it didn't, because I thought something nefarious was going on, because it would not successfully install the patch on the device. And it says they tried it for days and days and days, couldn't patch it. They even called Citrus. Citrus couldn't patch it. And I'm thinking, all right, so the bad guys are already in there and they screwed something up. But that's not the case. It just, for whatever reason, it just wouldn't patch, wouldn't work.
Yeah. They even brought in another third party trying to patch it who couldn't patch them.
Yeah. So they tried to patch it internally. They tried to patch it through the vendor. They tried to patch it through a third party. I'm like, dude, they're doing everything. But here's the problem. They stopped.
Well, they kept trying. It's just they still left the device out there live. So they were trying to patch their standby device so they could just swap them, right? They left the vulnerability live while they knew it was being exploited.
Right.
And if after, the first day or two, you can't get it done, at least after they called Citrix, right? And Citrix couldn't get it done. This is where management should step in, right?
Yeah.
Because technical people, they just keep going. We're trying to solve a technical problem.
Dude, technical people will die trying.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I have to tell my team, at some point you have to call time of death. Like, you can't keep going.
Yeah. And they go down the rabbit hole and they want to figure it out. Yeah. And I know, I'm the same way. You and I have both been down a rabbit hole trying to figure something out and then realize we've been working on it an hour when we meant to spend 10 minutes on it, right?
Oh yeah. It's the whole, this thing will not beat me.
Yeah.
I will figure this out. Especially in an organization where nobody can figure it out. That's like the perfect thing to hand to a technical person. Because when you say nobody can figure it out, dude, they want to be the superhero technical. Yeah. I'm the only person that can figure this out.
Yeah. You just drew a line in the sand right there. Right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that whole thing is going to happen. We know that's going to happen. And, I'm assuming that this organization doesn't have like one person trying to do everything, that there's layers. And when that couldn't be fixed, it doesn't require a technical person to make the decision that it can't be fixed by the vendor. Get a new device.
Yeah. Time to rip and replace.
Yeah. We can figure it out later. But the reason we started down this hole was because we have an actively exploited vulnerability. That's still the problem.
Think of it this way. Think of it like you're piloting. Is that what they call it? Piloting a boat. Anyway, you have a boat in the water, and there's this big hole in it, and you can't patch the hole. You tried, and the patch just won't work. It's like, okay, it's time to go get a new boat.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't just stay in the water while it's sinking and keep trying to patch it. At some point, it's like, okay, we got to go back. We got to go back to shore, and we got to get this. We got to get a new one.
Give me some of that stuff the dude sprays on the and makes a bottom of a boat out of a screen door. We need some of that.
Yeah.
Somebody run to Home Depot.
Yeah. He spent $3,000 for that spray to get a $700 boat in the water.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah. So about 3 months goes by because we learned that on October 12th, it all fell apart.
Yeah. The wheels fell off. Train hit went off the tracks. All the horses fell off the carousel. I don't care how you want to say it. It really all happened at the same time to them.
Yeah. And it's worth bringing up too, because, we have new listeners every single week, that when an organization publishes a 0-day, they're not just telling their customers there's a vulnerability. They're also telling the bad guys there's a vulnerability, right? Yeah. So now you've got something that maybe only a few people knew was a vulnerability. Now it's broadcast out for everybody because that's just the nature of what it is. Like,
well, they have no choice. Yeah.
Right. Everybody has to know so they can fix it, which means everybody has to know so they can also attack it. Mm-hmm. So that's why the 0 days, especially when they announce them, that's why it's so crucial that you act fast to get these things patched.
Yeah. So this came out, they did the initial announcement July 18th. Mm-hmm. By October, they still don't have it fixed, and they still have the vulnerable device live.
Ooh. Okay. And then, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. The leadership, several of the leaders of the organization get emails from the attackers letting them know that they have stolen data. At the same time, they're picking up, quote, unusual activity and started an investigation. And it all led back to the device because the attackers used that device to get the AD, Active Directory, steal all the user accounts, just exactly the way that it was laid out. And they got in there September 22nd is when they were able to track that's when they got in. So let's say July 18th, the announcement, they started trying to do it. Even if they gave it a week, that's as long as you should. But certainly, you're looking at, okay, August, September? No, you can't. Mm-hmm. Because by October 12th, it's all done. They've been in there since September 22nd to October 8th.
Yeah, a couple weeks. That's a long time.
40 different hosts they had control over.
Yep. So let's talk about some things we can learn from this because honestly, they were doing a great job. I think they were doing a great job, but they run into this problem. And my guess is they've never really considered, well, what do we do when we can't fix it? How far do we keep going to try to fix the problem?
Right.
And so this is the learning part of this. And, if patching is critical, especially when there's a 0 day and it's public facing. We just talked about that. But if they can't be patched within a few days, then you got to do something different.
Yes. And so the thing is, if you can't get a patch done for any reason within a few days, it has to be taken offline. Period. End of discussion. Mm-hmm. Find another solution. Somehow that device can no longer be online. Mm-hmm. That's where the problem started. Because everything that happened from that point forward, from like the first week, if they had done that right then, everything would be fine. And whenever the tech staff, if you know they're going down a hole, and they are trying, they never stopped trying. They were all trying to come up with different ways, different people, calling people, researching things, rebooting this. But if the vendor can't even load it.
Yeah. At that point, I'm like, okay, this thing's dead.
Yeah. I have so many questions about that because I'm not going to speculate the 40 different reasons why that might be a thing. Is the device really old? Did they buy it on the secondary market? There's a million reasons that that couldn't happen. But that's when you draw the line and say, I must, at this time, bring the device offline. How I deal with it going offline, that's a whole different problem. Mm-hmm. The patch problem is solved by bringing the device offline. Now I have a new problem. Yeah. And that's what you have to keep. Because, if somebody had just pulled the plug, you got to guess they'd save close to $1 million.
I was going to say, I can think of 1.4 million reasons why I'd pulled it.
Yeah, well, even with the reduced they've got all the notifications they had to do because they had to notify like 240,000 patients or something.
Yeah, and this is just the state fine. This is not the federal stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know. Thankfully, the federal tries to step aside when the state's taking it. I don't know. we'll see. But
well, I'm just wondering, will they step in and put them on a corrective action plan, or I don't know.
Well, they admitted to a corrective. They agreed to a corrective action plan of a security program, and the patching has to be done in 72 days or 72 hours. 72 days, 72 hours, or it's taken offline. And there's some other stuff. But this was so hard because they were doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when it failed, is when they didn't start doing a new right thing.
Right. Yeah. It's part of the policy and the procedure, which they, of course, have now. But, if you can't get it patched within X time frame, what's the next step?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like in this case, if you can't get it patched in 72 hours, it has to come offline.
Oh, yeah.
And that's probably not something a lot of people actually have in their policy. What do you do?
No, but
most people think it comes out and I patch it.
Yeah, so it's certainly something to revisit. This goes on to our BOLO. Always be on the lookout for something to revisit in your policy so that you can learn from what happened to others instead of the way they had to learn. Definitely go ask that question and I don't know about you, David, but it'd be like, there's no way they weren't able to patch it. I mean, didn't they call the vendor? Didn't they? I would immediately start asking all these questions. So send them to this podcast if they have all the questions that we know we would have.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there'll be links. So then we have another one. And, I have that background in development. That's my brain works as a coder. And I'm envisioning this one as I'm reading the story and getting more and more horrified by it.
Yeah, this one's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
well, it goes back to showing yet again the patience these attackers have. They will wait and work and build and slowly do what needs to be done to get the big, they're going after the big prize. They'll spend their time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The payoff's worth it.
Yeah. So this one, the headline, year-long supply chain attack targeting security pros steals 390,000 credentials.
Wow.
Yeah. This is from Ars Technica. And, they put like some technical stuff out there where I'm like reading it and I'm like, no. Oh, no. It's like a horror story for me. But so what people don't understand in today's world, like back in when we wrote code with a tablet and a chisel, things were very different. And you would write your own code for everything. And then you would, within your company, you would have that one piece. And that would go in your code, but it wouldn't go to other people's codes. And then we started doing things called APIs and code libraries and stuff like that, which was nice. But we didn't have them readily available on the internet for everybody to share. It was only from the vendors of the tools you were using. Well, now I can go search for a little snippet of code to do all kinds of things. I do it, all the time. And so what they did is they wrote this little useful piece of code. Very helpful what it did. Not something major. In fact, it was something, really innocuous. It was just a pretty straightforward call. Made it work. And then they maintained it like you normally would, doing updates. And they made 16 different updates, which is what you want to see. It's not crappy code. They're maintaining it. They're keeping it up to date. So they bring this thing up to date. And what no one notices is while they're doing that, they slip in some little, they did it, they obfuscated it so that they hid it within the code, a little backdoor that would let them in. But it built, and so the way this works, though, is the code builds a reputation because it is being maintained. You can see the log of security fixes. There's all this stuff. And, it builds a little bit of a reputation. People start using it, and it slowly spreads. Now, this is code people would use on a WordPress site.
Mm-hmm.
In case you don't know, your website often likely runs on WordPress, many of them, somewhere. Yeah. So it slowly spreads, and that's going well. And they just waited till it was spreading out a little bit. So then they go to a whole other distribution area, and they build another code that incorporates that code. So they got the code with the bad stuff. They go and build another tool, also very simple but very helpful tool. And it, by just the list of what it does, it just includes that code, and that code looks good, and the new code is using that code, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So then the really innocuous thing gets spread out, because you don't even see the bad code. If you were looking, it's in the other thing that's automatically getting loaded.
Right.
All of a sudden now I got all these devices, and they can light up those backdoors and start using them. And they were able to drop stuff out there where it was picking up like security keys, login information, connections to AWS, all kinds of things. And like every day gathering information like that from the site and dropping it off in little Dropbox. Because, Dropbox is secure.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever uses that for things. It was file.io and Dropbox. And then they also, just to add a little more money to their pocket, they dropped off a crypto mining application. So you're now paying for the processing resources to do crypto mining, and that is not small.
Yeah. That's when you get those alerts that your website is using a lot more resources than it normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody pays attention.
Yeah. So, well, and a lot of these researchers, they'll have all kinds of things going on out there. So, they're screwing things up on purpose. But, this thing spread for a year. They've just found it not too long ago. All year long, this thing has been spreading and growing, and they've gathered this information, and it's been extensive. So what I'm saying is, these are technical folks that got hit by this. Nobody's immune.
Mm-hmm.
And they got them using simple methods that could get anybody. They just happened to target the security folks because they had stuff.
Yeah.
But just like, I don't care who I get.
Instead of a back door, they just had a front door. Because, the security folks are like, surely nobody would come through the front door.
Yeah. This, nobody's going to do. And a lot of the stuff, they actually put it out there wanting them to hit it, just monitoring for them to hit it a certain other way. So, but that is why David and I are so paranoid about getting hit all the time. All the time.
Yeah. All the time.
So what you should learn from this is why your website matters. This is why your web developer matters. This is why you should be checking it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why we end up talking about things like code review and SBOMs.
These websites, everything we build on websites is WordPress. So I don't know. Last time I looked, WordPress was it was a major part of the websites on the internet. I don't know what the number is now, but it used to be like 70-something% of websites was WordPress or something like that. So it's a lot. But most people treat websites like set it and forget it. Like we put a website out there and we're done.
Yeah.
And you might host it. You might even have like automatic updates turned on for your WordPress core or even your plugins, but most people don't do anything else with it. And the way we treat websites is the same way we treat the normal PC and server environment. We monitor it, we manage it, we update it, we back it up, we have security on it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people do that. And we have a client just recently. Matter of fact, I think it's a mutual client between both of us. And their website was like 11 years old and everybody hadn't touched it since they built it.
Oh.
And so, they were like, can we bring this thing up to date? And I was like, no, we can nuke it and we can start over. But there's no way I'm trying to bring something up. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to try to get an 11-year-old site updated because the front end, quote unquote, worked, right?
Right.
Like nothing's wrong with it. But the back end is a complete mess. Like it is so many versions behind on so many things that I can just about guarantee you that if I updated one thing, it would break everything.
Well, that if it would even update, you'll be like the citrus thing that won't even update.
Right. Yeah, it's just a mess. Try. So no, it's like, no, we're not. I mean, it would cost us 3 times as much to try to update it. And plus it looks like it's 11 years old. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it's time to update it. But it's very common that we run into sites like that somebody's like, well, I had somebody build it. Okay, great. Who's hosting it? I think it's on GoDaddy. Okay, but who? Like, who's taking care of the site? What do you mean? Who's making sure it's updated and checking the security and all that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, and people need to see a website like it's, you're on a busy street and this is your storefront window.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not paying attention, people can break in. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Then they can use your website for all kind of stuff, which we've seen before. Take over your site, put nasty stuff on there, or take over your site. I think even worse is they take over your site, and then all the information that comes in, they're filling out forms and all that. That stuff goes to somebody else. You're not getting anything.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I wonder why I'm not getting anything from my website anymore. Well, because somebody's took it over.
And they take over your domain name, and then you've really lost it, because then it's really, really bad. So you should worry about these things, and don't just take a ton of people can do web development today. It is not super, super hard to do this kind of work. And graphic design, great. People know how to make it pretty. Mm-hmm. They do not know how to make it pretty and secure necessarily.
Right.
And they may think,
ask these questions.
Yeah. That's why you want to know, not just do you turn on auto updates, but is it got some sort of defense kind of software? There's tons of different software products that will run out there monitoring for problems and alert somebody. And if they have that, then who's following the alerts? Because you got that other question. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, oh, we've got this security software on it. Well, who's paying attention when the security software starts yelling? Anyone? Mm-hmm. Bueller? Mm-hmm. So, and just because it really made me a nervous wreck when we won't go into the details, but I was on a health delivery organization's website to look for something else and stumbled on the little badge that says HIPAA compliant with a caduceus on it. So, and I'm like, HIPAA compliant. And then I look closer, and right underneath it, they'd gone out of their way to put text that says in big bold letter, HIPAA, protecting patient health information with the utmost care. I just don't have a lot of care in the fact that right above it is showing me I'm spelling it wrong. Literally right above it. Logo,
that's crazy.
Misspell it. Logo says HIPAA. This says HIPAA. And that doesn't make me feel about, very comforting about, attention to detail.
Yeah. The thing is, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're paying attention to HIPAA compliance, it's not just us that say this, but the whole thing about having the HIPAA compliance seal has been something that people have been shouting from the rooftops for at least 2 years about. Take this junk off your website. It's going to get you in trouble. Even the FTC is like, you better take this crap off your website.
Yeah. Unless you can prove it. And by the way, you can't prove you're HIPAA compliant at a given moment because you just can't. It's a moment in time. And if I ask you to prove right now, where are you? And I'm going to ask you a year from now because I found your website. But then, I did look to see, and there's like a chat thing, and there's a vendor on it, because then I go down the rabbit hole. And who's that vendor? And guess what? That vendor says they're HIPAA compliant too. But at least they spelled it right. But I didn't have a lot of faith because they use the same little logo, so it's probably the same people. But you're putting that logo on your website, you're not paying attention to the requirements and the reasons. You're not paying attention to your compliance program if you're putting that on your website. That's all I'm saying. So your website matters.
Yeah. When you think about how detailed you have to be to have a good compliance program, but you then can't spell HIPAA properly, I don't know that you're detailed enough.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure it was just a typo, but to make a typo right below a logo with the right spelling is the part I have a problem with. Because it just screams at people like me.
Yeah. Oh, man. So what do you do when your systems are part of the actual attacker supply chain?
That's where we're going next. And, this one's been hanging around. I've been trying to figure out where to mix it in because guess what, David? It's in Georgia.
Of course.
And Florida. And, this just came out, I don't know, a month or so ago. That a hacker gets 10 years in prison for extorting U.S. healthcare provider.
Wow.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah. And first of all, really excited to see that happen. Because until there's consequences, people will continue to do what they choose.
The other thing is this ain't no youngster.
No. So, first of all, you want to give a shot at the dude's name?
Robert Perbeck.
There you go.
That's what I'm going for.
Perbeck. Not perfect. Perbeck. 45 years old from Idaho. Okay, just a little detour here. When I was on that cruise to Alaska, and one of the adult comedy shows that we were at, guy engages with somebody, in the audience, and the woman is clearly lit. And she just once he gives her an opening, she just randomly starts screaming out until they had to have her removed.
Oh,
and she's like, I'm from Idaho. Over and over, just randomly yelling it. It was like, we were up like higher up because I want to be down there. I sneak in and out of places. And, she just kept yelling it. Anyway, she probably knew this guy. And so 10 years in prison. He hacked at least 19 organizations. So, but the only ones that were in this story talks about 2 in Georgia and 1 in Florida. Mm-hmm. And by the way, his handles, everybody has a handle on the internet. Especially the hackers. So first it's LifeLock, which, come on, you're just...
Yeah.
But then, prepare for the eye roll. Studmaster.
That's why I couldn't get that name. It was already taken. I tried to find a picture. Of said Studmaster, and I didn't see it. I looked up probably 10 different articles, and nobody had his picture. I was very disappointed in reporters who won't find Studmaster's picture.
I know. Well, it would just been in a hoodie in the dark basement. But anyway,
he was 45 and lived home with his parents.
But he used a scheme that we talk about, and this is where we tell people this happens. And nobody really believes this, I'm sure, but this is actually an example where it's literally happened. Is he goes out online to Darknet, and there's computers available for sale that you can just buy access to. And there's folks that all they do is go and get a hold of a computer from wherever, and they just kind of periodically check every few weeks to make sure it's still connected. I can still get in, and then they get away. They don't want to draw any attention to themselves because really all they're doing is trying to sell it. Mm-hmm. It is a supply chain after all. And yeah. So
people are pimping out your computers and you don't even know it.
Right. This is why I tell people when they're like, I don't have anything they want. You have a computer. This is what I'm telling you. This is why you have to watch all of them. We don't have to worry about those because everything's in the cloud. No. So, first in 2017, he buys network access to a computer at a doctor's office. Ta-da! So again, we don't have to worry about those. It's what we tell you about. And so he buys that and he steals 43,000 patient records and demands a ransom. Not going down all the rabbit holes because he also he did it, 19 organizations he did this with, but they were able to track him to that one and then another one in 2018. And I think this is where he really got caught because he did the doctor's office and then he got another one. And it turns out it was, what is the town? It's in a town in Georgia. He got access to their police, the server for the police department at Noonan, Georgia. That's where it is. And so he gets access to that. It doesn't say what he tries to do, but he did steal a bunch of stuff from them too. But then later in 2018, he gets an orthodontist in Florida. Now, here's the thing that probably got him is he's not thinking about that having kids. And you start messing with kids, everything ramps up a little bit more. And so he hits the orthodontist, but they said he was harassing the doctor and the patients with text messages and emails threatening to release their personal information unless they paid a ransom. So he was hitting 19 organizations simply by going out and buying access to a random computer on somebody's network. And we've seen the list. I've seen it in demonstrations and stuff by, the good guy hackers. And the list is terrifying when you see what's out there. They have computers in hospitals and doctors' offices all over everywhere. And that's why you have to make sure you're paying attention to these things. So you don't want to be a part of the supply chain attack, nor do you want to have a supply chain attack, nor do you want to delay dealing with a supply chain attack. There you go. Boom. We tied them all together.
Well, it also says that in addition to his 10 years in prison, that he also has to serve 3 years of supervised release, and he's got to pay a restitution to his victims of $1,048,700.
Whoa.
Ooh.
Ow.
Ooh.
That's going to leave a mark.
Yeah.
That's probably about as much as he stole.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And one would think, well, never mind. Because, they don't think. They don't think.
Well, they see all this, these highlight reels, I guess you could call it, in the news. Mm-hmm. Hacker gets paid this kind of money. I mean, you and I have joked about it before. Like, we're on the wrong end of this.
Yeah.
And, somebody finally decided, you know what? I think I can make better money doing it the other way.
Yeah.
But my suggestion would be you probably want to move to Russia before you do that or something. Like, if there's nothing else I learned as a kid, or especially a college kid, it's like you don't crap in your own yard. That's all I'll say.
That's the way to put it, David. That's the way to put it. It's a perfect way to end our first episode of the year because
that's that's a good one. All right. That's our show, folks. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share this out because I know there are plenty of people that need it. So hook us up, brother. All right. So remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect
appreciate your patience. Day and night, Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip-hop, let's get it right. You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.